Welcome back into Wave 3 Listens Live. I'm Michael Vanover, joined by a familiar face to the show, Attorney Jim Desmond, joining me now from Desmond Law Office. Jim, how are you?
Michael, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming back on the program today. I haven't got to do it with you. I know John has the last few times, but wanted to have you back today as you've got some good stuff we're going to talk about for the holidays. But first, let's give the viewers that aren't familiar with Desmond Law a little bit of background on you and the firm.
Okay. All I do is car wrecks. That's from day one. I've been doing this 20 plus years. I use my cell phone for everything. I'm amazed the other attorneys in town haven't picked that up and stolen that from me because it's simple, it's straightforward, but they don't do it, and it's crazy. One of the things on that I was thinking about when you and I were talking about this a little bit beforehand, when people call me on the cell phone, it's quick, it's easy, all right? It's not this 40-minute phone call where I'm sitting here saying, will you give me your date of birth and your email to follow up? No. You know, I'm lazy, okay? I've been doing this 20 years. You know, I want to get the phone call, either we can do something to help you and analyze that, you know, what's just happened, or we can't. So it's a quick 10-minute informal phone call with me, and there's no secretaries, no paralegals. We're going to have a quick informal phone call where we say, hey, you know, can we do something to help you because you've been in a car wreck? So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when people think of personal injury lawyers, they think of hundreds and hundreds of employees, maybe call centers out of different states. I mean, all kinds of different. This is straight up your cell phone number. If they have a question about their accident, they call you, they get you, and you make it easy and quick, right? Talk about the process a little bit more.
Well, on that issue, okay, and that having a large firm, I'll use the word stupid in my opinion. I don't mean to be like that because again, if I'm the one making the decision whether we can possibly make something out of this case, whether my client's been wronged or not, I want that information firsthand. I don't want to go through a call person. I don't want to go through a secretary or paralegal, okay? I want that information firsthand. It is not, I mean, again, when somebody's been in an accident, we don't expect to. None of us do. I mean, I'm trying to concentrate on Christmas right now, the end of the year. Sure. We all get to concentrate on taxes, you know, and COVID.
Right.
You know, so we don't want to concentrate on a car wreck. So the last thing I want to do is pull something out where somebody has to deal with something if we don't know, one, if we can really help them, and two, do they even have a case from it? So the biggest thing on that phone call is initial advice. Give you some ideas as to what's going on. You know, was the other guy truly at fault? How do we get your car fixed? Should we be going to the doctor? Those type of things. And there's no judgment on my part, by the way. Sometimes people will call, they won't have insurance, okay? And we should all have insurance. I'm not going to tell you not. But it doesn't mean you don't have a personal injury claim. Sure. And people are worried that I'm going to be tough on them or rough. No, okay? We're going to figure out how to maximize whatever we can, what their legal rights are from this car wreck, whether it's property damage, loss of use, or pain and suffering. Basically, you know, under the circumstances we have, whatever was created before the accident.
I think one of the things that you had told me, you know, beforehand as well, is that, you know, you look at yourself as a straight shooter. You're not going to tell somebody that you're going to get them a check if you don't know the specifics of their case. Talk about that and not, you know, making promises that maybe you don't know yet. I mean, you just need to do research on it.
And it was funny because I was negotiating with somebody the other day, another attorney I did not know, and he paid me a little compliment on that. He said, because he saw some of the advertising we had been doing recently, he said, you know, you're the only one out there not promising people a check, okay? You're actually saying, hey, you know, this is what I can do. Everybody wants to think the law is black and white. It's not, okay? If you ever take a law school exam, it's if this, then that, if that, this. I mean, it's all over the place. So again, how do you know that? You know that. You learn that information basically by, again, getting that directly from your client, okay? It's a situation where, no, I'm not going to promise anybody a check because every case is different. Well, you know, the value of a case is completely different. It depends. If it's a scratch on a bumper, it's certainly not worth as much as, you know, a car that is totaled out. If a drunk driver's involved, I can do better, okay? Because again, you gave me this huge bat to swing because somebody did something they weren't supposed to do, okay? You know, there's 100 different factors that go into it, much less is everybody insured. I have a case right now that very sweet person, went down to E-Town, motorcycle accident, okay? We've had to go through a bunch of searches. I mean, surgery involved in the legs, horrendous accident. And the short story is, again, we've found 2 insurance policies that will apply, and they're not going to be nearly what they need to be to cover this lady's, you know, injuries and pain and suffering. But again, we got to do what we can to maximize it, and that's where I'm going to get a little rough on other attorneys sometimes. Everybody knows this if you see all these commercials, okay? Personal injury is the most lucrative area out there, okay, when it comes to an attorney. So a lot of people want to dabble in it. They want to play in it. You don't do that. It's like me doing family law. I can do it. I'll get a B-, okay? but you're not going to do as well as somebody who just does family law. So that's why, again, all I do is car wrecks.
You do car wrecks. That's your thing. Which
yeah,
also
I'm too old to learn anything new. I don't want to learn anything
So
new.
speaking of car wrecks, obviously there's X amount of accidents that happen every day in Kentucky, but around the holidays, those numbers seem to spike.
Right.
Whether it be people going out for events and parties, and of course New Year's Eve. Obviously going to look a little bit different here in 2020 with COVID-19. But talk about some of the things that people need to be prepared for as they hit the road, potentially around the holiday season.
Well, one of the biggest things is we see more drunk drivers right off the bat. I mean, let's face it, we're out drinking, either at a holiday get-together, a family get-together, New Year's is big about that. COVID has increased the drinking rates.
Yeah,
okay.
Alcohol sales are way up, sure.
Sure, so immediately, was the person who hit you, were they involved, were they drinking? Had they been drinking at all? Were they drunk? Those are all things that go into not only the issue of liability, but ultimately can recover more than just compensatory damages. Because if somebody's been drinking, they can then potentially, your client who's injured has a claim against that insurance company for punitive damages as well, damages designed to punish. But the other thing we're seeing a little bit with the COVID, and I understand why, but this is where you got to protect yourself, again, is I'm seeing more people who don't have insurance because, again, we're all struggling a little bit in the sense that, payroll isn't happening or, people are losing jobs. What's one of the first things they cut back on is, car insurance because, again, they don't think they need it. And 90% of the time, the advice I give will probably not come into play on some things. But the advice about insurance and limits and everything else, those 10% of the horrendous accidents, that's hugely important, okay? So again, how do you protect yourself? You've got to assume, okay, well, I'm going to this Christmas party. Not only do I have to watch out for everybody else on the road and assume they don't know what they're doing, but in the same respect, I have to basically make sure my car is insured and it's insured properly because otherwise, I could get hit by a drunk driver who has no insurance or very little insurance, and yet I'm facing a $50,000 medical bill.
Underinsured policies out there and things like that people can do to protect themselves.
Those are the three that everybody, if you ever go to my website, attorneydesmond.com, you'll see me blog to death about that, which is uninsured and underinsured coverage of $100,000 per person and potentially no fault insurance of $30,000 per person.
Now, one of the things I know when people call your cell phone, you talk to them about, if they've been injured, what they should do, what they can do, their options. But if you're watching right now and you happen to go out and get in an accident later today or tomorrow or whatever, what are some things you can do in the moment regarding photos and things like that?
Oh, I'll tell you right now, if you can, this sounds so bad because you've been in an accident, you're injured. But again, with the iPhones, I'll tell you, get that phone out, take pictures of the car, okay, where they're all positioned, okay. If you can take pictures of any bruises or lacerations, anything, do it. And it's horrible to do that, but again, you're approaching, what people don't realize is from day one, okay, they say, well, the other guy's at fault, he's going to pay my medical bills. That's not how the law works. So as soon as you're in that car accident, you've got to say, okay, I've got to be able to prove my case as to who's at fault, how my injuries were and such, and everything down the road. I've got to be getting ready for a jury trial possibility 2 years from now. I know it's crazy, but that's the truth. I have a case right now that we've been getting body cam footage from the police officer and everything else trying to establish the fault issue. We go all the time, this ring.com cameras. I love those things because we send out investigators and try to see, where is it? Because people don't understand something. The other guy, it's not what we think happened. If you can't prove to that insurance company that he's at fault, then they're not going to pay anything, okay? And part of it, think about that real quick. You want them to pay for your car, and you say, well, it's just $500 in damage. But as soon as they do that, that opens up the rental car, the medical bills, and the pain and suffering. All
right. Well, Jim and Desmond, thank you so much for being with us today. AttorneyDesmond.com. Call him on his cell phone, 502-609-7657. Really appreciate it.
Good hearing from you.
All right, absolutely. We'll be right back on Wave 3 Listens Live. Stay with us.